How are you doing, Ralfy here, Ralfy Customs? Me and our Josh have had a very fucking busy morning setting up for the next project. Let's go and have a look. On the bench, that nice Mr. Andrews Triumph 900 triple, all ready to start running tubing off camera because you've seen me do it a lot. We have previously made the pillbox axle plates. Let me just show you it with an end cover on. I think it's this one prepared. Oh yeah, with the end cover on, nicely wheel adjusters in there, big slot in there for sliding the axle back. And little grub screws in the end, little grub screws in the end to pinch on those mounting fitches, whatever you want to call them. Headstock all turned up. I think I did a video on this now, I've mentioned it because I said about him keeping the big cup thing in the top and I've marked top. So maybe I have, check my playlist. Maybe I have. And we are set at 35 degrees. With 6.5 inches of clearance at the front and 6 inches of clearance at the back. And we've got the engine supported with my usual packers and sprags to stop things from rocking and rolling and sliding around. Yeah, so it won't go anywhere. And we have got the very start of the frame being the box section that joins these two side rails up, the front rails, when they go in place there. That is nice and central and just back far enough to give us plenty of clearance and get some nice engine plates on without interfering with his wheel, which its utmost forwardest point is only going to come to about here, so we've got loads of room. And that is the same wheelbase as mine, near as fuck it is to swearing. And ready to rock and roll. So that is the very start of that nice Mr. Andrews Triumph 900 triple. So what I like to do is work out some of my cut lengths and bends before I begin, and then make the cradle and the top tube and the centre post, and then we've done the bulk of it. The arse end is not just, I'm not diminishing it, but that's a separate thing. We could, if we were worried about stability, we could get this front two tubes in and then do these two engine mounts. And then it ain't fucking going anywhere. You know, we ain't got to worry about swinging off the bench and rocking the engine about, although the bench is bolted down. So what I've worked out is that we need two pieces of this tubing, 48 inches long. And there's a bend, starts here, 20 inches from the end, and it comes up at 70 degrees to reach through to the headstock. There'll be another bend here. They swing out to be wider than the engine. These I like to bring them outside because you've got a radiator and an exhaust and you want all the space that you can for that. So Josh has kindly done his bit and cut two bits at 48. We've marked them at 20 inches. We have, that you can't see on camera very well, marked a line that we will put upright in the bender so that should we need to put it back in or duplicate it, we've got a bit of a reference, and I will get them bent out at 70 degrees. So here's that mark. We put that mark in so it's level with this former because that's where the bend is going to start, not level with that die. So we get it about there with that upright, that line I just showed you, dead straight up between the gap of the two. Take the tension off it and then we know that we're bang on the place to get it done. Ain't it? Then we've got the marker that gives us a rough graduation, and we can turn this wheel to get that on 0 when we've got tension in it. We don't want to do it at 0 when it's loose, or 0 when it's not fucking ready to bend. So I swing off it a little bit and get that set to 0, and then we can start bending. Like fucking so. do. So I was bang on, well, we're going to 71 in the end, to be fair, like degrees, but we're not going to argue over a degree. And that sits, fucking pucker geezer. There's plenty at the end here, because I am seriously considering doing a loop for the back rails, whereas before I used to do like a dog leg, but I'm seriously considering doing a loop. The last few frames I've done a loop, and it looks fucking lovely, and it's a lot easier for me to do, which it looks great and it's easier to do, is a win-win as far as I'm concerned. What I need to watch is that this comes out and then bends in, so I'm hoping, praying that we've got enough length there, which we may well not have, but we'll see.
Don't forget, folks, our Fuckstock stickers are now available in our Etsy store, link in the description below. Fuckstock, you know it makes sense.
Well, you see, well, okay. Right, it is the next day for us. Well, for me, because I'm flying solo, it's my day off and I've come in to crack on. Yeah, we've reworked those because I was right. They were too fucking short. Mistakes happen, don't they? So, there you go. What we need to do now is put that bend in, which comes just above this mountain. These are going to, if I can hold it, hold on, bear with, one-handed. They're going to sit out like that, and then they're going to bend over to reach the headstock. So they will, in effect, come round that and then fuck off to the headstock. And, of course, I have got a playlist, excuse me. There is a playlist for this job that includes making the headstock and making the pillbox adjusters. So this will be video number 3 in the series. What I'm going to do now off camera, because I'm on my own, is I'm going to bend these. I have guesstimated 50 degrees that way in order to catch the bottom of the headstock where they need to catch it. Righto, so we have loosely placed, look, they're a wonky donkey because I've not put them in the right spot. We've loosely placed those now, they've got that bending off camera. You can see when that moves across, that's got to come across so that the bend cops this mount thereabouts. We just need it to come round. We could bend it after. I think on mine it's bent after. I think on the last one I did it might even be bent on the bend, on whatever like. So it's not crucial. It just needs to give us that nice shape that misses the 3 exhausts and gives us a bit of room for the radiator. So what I should do is cut this fucker off, because we know that we don't need any of that, and then we'll have a look at this gap that I can't really show you. The gap between this face there and this tube. This wants to sit about on the outside of that. So the inside of that wants to be on the outside of that or a bit further out. It don't really matter as long as it don't go in. And then we're going to fit a boss on here about that long. So it'll go there with a bit of tube and a little bit of plate to gusset it out. This might move back a bit. I'm not sure yet. We'll see when we start trimming it up where it sits on the headstock. I don't want it right to the bottom of the headstock because we don't want to catch this bearing cup. We want to be above that or be absolutely fucking pucker, giving us clearance for yokes and stuff. Righto, that is one trimmed up, ready to go. That'll fit in there nicely. That fits nicely as well. We're on that line when we make a doodah to doodah with the thing. We make a slug, a countersunk boss that bolts on the outside of these engine mounts at the top, comes out here, and then it's got a bit of inch tube, a bit of skinnier tube, and a little bit of plating. And I can't really fucking show you, but the inside of this tube is about in line with the inside of that boss, which is just how we fucking need it. The last thing to do on these tubes is notch this end. We know that we're going to have a piece of 1.25 across the back there that is going to then bend to there. We may or may not put a kick in there to kick it up so it runs flat and then kicks up. If we can get in with a bender, then I will. I've done them straight before and it looks good, but I fancy a kick in there. I think that might look good. So what I'll do is cut this a bit long and then notch it, and then use a bit of 1.25 flat against this, which is where it's going to live on the bike, in order to see that that joint is fluted out or scalloped or coped correctly for the joint. And there you have it, look, just the same but a couple of tacks, but I've done this end, which is interesting. Well, to me it's fucking interesting. So we're going to have a loop that comes here, bends round and goes up to the underside of these. Like I say, the wheel comes about there, so if we had a bend there, if I can get that, I don't think I'm going to get that in my bender, but I might. How I've done them in the past is I've had a dog leg coming up, which is what my Triumph's got and I quite like, but I have since changed to this loop that I really fucking like. I think the loop looks fucking sweet, proper solid, like nice and strong and tough looking, unless you're really skinny on here and you got a massively wide back end, and then I like the dog leg because I think it flows better, but I'm going to go for the loop on this one, and I have coped that out so that when the loop sits on there we've got a decent joint, no big gaps to fill. Unless, no, my look, the bend of the fucking loop will cut the corner off there, but that's no big deal, because if it does sit quite wide then we'll plate that in anyway. We'll beef that up with a nice bit of thick plate just to add to the strength. So that is one front rail cradle tube in. We will do the same with the other side. We marked off, we cut 6.5 inch off that before we started coping it. Look, made a note, made a mark. We have got bend marks where the bends start, and they line up with marks that are on the same place on the bench. So this has got to go forward a bit. I've just got it propped there out of the way, and then we can mark where this comes and give it the same coping strategies that we did on the other side. So I will do that off camera because I'm here on my own, and get it tacked in place. So the next bit of tube to go in would be the top tube. There's a little kick down from in line with that, that rear mount through to catch this upright. But before we can do that, we need to make sure that we've got clearance and whatnot on the carburetors. So we need to put his carbs on now before we can do that, because we don't want to fucking be oinking the carbs on these that can be tight, although they feel quite good actually. Bit of lube, isn't it? Finger a bit of lube in there, boys, and then she'll pop straight in, kaploosh. But I don't want to fucking upset this motor because everything's in line and everything's square. So what I'm going to do, as I briefly touched on earlier, is put these engine mounts in next. Then these rails are fixed. They're fixed to the bench via this that's tacked down. They're fixed to the headstock and to the bench via the fixture on the front of the headstock. So we can then fucking give it Bealey big bollocks, fit in the carbs without worrying about fucking all this up, knocking everything like fucking skittling the fucking lot like. So that is what I shall do next, is spin up some countersunk 1-inch diameter bosses that fit on here, and then put some bits of tubing to join the two, and that should be fucking happy days, ain't it? Righto, time to make those bosses, so we will speed this up, excuse me. So we'll get these faced up to length. I'll just show you one end, look. New bandsaw blade, and it's cutting almost fucking flat, which is a good change. So we'll take a nice face cut, because I know that Josh has cut them a couple of millimetres long, like so, right the way to the centre, so we don't snap the centre drill off. We'll just change that tool out. Yes, you could break the edge with a file. No, I'm not going to. No, I can't explain why. Just touch on there like that, lovely stuff. No, with those, there's a pair of them, like, obviously. With those faced up to length, We can get the lube pot on the job, get them drilled out. So as always, straight in with the centre drill, or you could use a spot drill or a stubby or something similar, and get started with this bad boy like so. Switch out to our 12.5, which is clearance for the bolt that's going to go through. They're not threaded, these, the countersunk to take the bolt. Bit of a squealer, isn't it? There we go. Sorted. We'll drill that all the way through. Okay, last up, we need to counterbore it. So I'm going to use a 4-flute end mill. I'm just touched on the job, and I'm going to wind the tailstock out until I can see number 10 on the scale. 2, 4, 6, 8. Come on, 10 is there. And I know that we need to go 12 deep, so plenty of lube. Slowed it down, and we'll go in until we can see 12. There's 2, there's 4, there's 6. A bit more lube, I think. Don't want to ruin our tooling. 2, 4, 6. Come on. 8. Quite deep, isn't there? There's 10, and just coming up on 12, which is just there. Happy days. Let's have that out of the way then. Break that edge, and now that should very nicely, if I get the shit out, which I'm struggling to do, take 12mm bolt like so. Sorted. I'll spin it round off camera and just break the edge on the other end of that hole and get this bolt out. It's fucking not having it, so that will finish the job nicely. We'll just defluff. I'll do it on camera while I've got you. We'll just defluff that hole up. Sorted. So that's a bit too hot to hold, unsurprisingly. But that's one of the engine mount. Job is made. There we go, look. Here's our Josh, struggling with the op thing that I've just guessed it, Gavin to bolt on. Hence the glove. Can't fault him. So they're in now, that's where they're going to live. And what we need to do is work out a bit of inch tubing that joins that to that. So that'll be next on the agenda. Then we can get the carbs on and get that top tube in and that, and then we can do the back engine mounts. Happy days. Then that'll be the front half of the frame almost done like. Right, so with that, then bits of tube cut and shaped and fitted in, a bit of trial and error. I just want to give that a bit that way. I think that's going to get me there. So I'll get a tack on and then I'll explain. Mind your eyes.
Yep.
Right, so what I'm aiming for is central on this boss, because that's the same size as that, so we don't want anything hanging out. And we were going to follow the line of that or thereabouts, so that's actually a little bit high. It's pretty good on there, so we're going to tap that down a bit. I'll get another tack on there and then I'll tap that down a bit and that'll be sweet. So with those two front mounts on holding this, we managed to get the carbs on knowing that we're not going to upset this. That is now fucking Johnny Rock, obviously. And I've got the backbone, which we've put a bit of a kick down in that we're going to weld up, because I can't bend this fucking tube, and I can't, if I could, I couldn't do a sharp bend like that. And that is going to sit something like that. So I'll get that welded and cleaned up, then we'll give the tube a clean up, excuse me, and then we'll get it tapped on. Hey, fucking hell, kids today. Right, so cleaned up and welded, and not in that order, and nice and central. We now have the front cradle and the backbone. Josh is just cutting the centre post. I'm trying to eyeball it up for you, so we know what we've done is mark the centre of the bench the centre of that box section and gone up with the square to double check, because the old good enough for the Roman string fouls this backbone. Next up, if you can hear it in the background, is our Josh just cutting another bit of tube that we're going to run in here. Nice and central, nice and square. And then that will be the cradle done. And we can get on these back mounts and plates before we do the back end. So we've got full access, you know. I mean, not that it'll proper get in the way, but while you've got room, get on it, like. Righto, so just showing that we're 90 on that. Nice little join up there. Nice and in the centre of that, because we mark it up to make sure that we are. So that is the centre post, top tube, front rails in. Now we could, if we were so inclined, get this brace in next. Actually, thinking about that. That bit about inch, I use a nice bit of inch to go from the, sorry, I'm not showing you very well, from the bottom of the headstock through to somewhere here. I'm very tempted to get that in next, and then we can spend the afternoon on making bosses and plates, which I think I've still got the CAD for that, but it might not be the same because everything's a bit one-off, ain't it? So we have trimmed up that end. If you show that end, Josh trimmed that up and I sanded it to fit, and we have done a lovely long cut to blend it in with the top tube. So that will be the final piece of tube in this. It ties in with the two front ones and the headstock, and it catches the backbone there, making that fucking solid as a rock. So it's really hurting my wrist holding it. When I get a tackle under here, like. Tackle on the back, if I can. Hold on. And another tap there. Eyes. Sorted. So that's the front cradle done. Now bear in mind, on these as standard, there is no bottom cradle, because the engine's an integral part of the structure. These end here on the standard buy, we're going to corner them in to make them super strong. And we have got more than enough. We've got 4 fuck off points holding the headstock on through to the backbone there and down. So I think back in the day, I ain't sure if it was one of these or whether it was a Suzuki. I think we did a few thinking about it that had absolutely no cradle, just open cradle, bolted on here and was beefer, bolted on the back here and was beefer, and then off to the back. Never liked the look of it, to be fair, but that is one half of the frame, all in situ, all in tube. I'm gonna have a look at these next. I'll find my CAD if I've still got it for these back plates, but I think that this is going to be a bit off because, like I said, everyone's a bit different. And so onto the engine plates. Mind your bum, Josh. That are going to have 2 bolts this side and 1 bolt to there. The top ones are going to have spacers there because they're a lot wider apart than the bottom ones, and I don't want great long things hanging off this post. It looks untidy, I think. So I'm going to space it. And we've done ourselves sketches. We know the top right is 150 between centres on the widest part, and they're all 50. The next one down is 105, that's the left hand top, and the 2 bottom ones are the same, 50 by 50. So got a nice sheet of quarter plate, and we've come in half of the radius we need, which is 25, because all the bosses are going to be 25, which is that. That's what we're going to have on the frame and use for spacers. So that's that, and we've plotted it out. We've gone 115 to the hole and 50 to that hole, and then we've given ourselves the 25mm diameter that the shape the plate's going to be, and we've scribed ourselves a line. So now we can cut that out, drill the holes, clean it up using this radius tool, this file guide. We can bolt the file guide on or just scribe around it and get to that line on all 3 corners, and then we can do the next one and so on and so forth. Happy days. Righto, well those all cut out, 4 plates cut out and cleaned up a bit. Bastard, that's hot. We have centre drilled, because there's a centre in that you can put your stubby in, all that. I'm not getting into it. So we centre drilled. Josh has centre drilled. I've just done this one. And he's drilled through all at 10.5mm because that suits the form tool that we're going to use, the file guide that we're going to use to round the radiuses. And here's now just deburring that. Just getting them a quick debur in the mighty meddings, just so it's nice and pretty. That will leave us a 12mm hole on the business end where it goes into the engine, and a relief hole on at least the top two. Not sure if we're going to do the bottom two with the relief hole. I'll have to think about it. So we're going to form these radii on the corner, and we use 25mm is the size that we desire. So we use this file gauge bastard there, and I've got Josh to do all the holes at 10.5 to take the bolt that this takes. It can take an 8mm as well that goes inside the thread, and you put a knot on the end, but with the 12mm it wouldn't fit it. So I said stop there, fucking do all these 10.5, and then we can clamp that on if you just move round. So we've now got a guide to sand it to. A weighted load section. We can take it down, make sure it's nice and even, and follow that guide all the way around, and that'll give us a lovely end radius on every one. Eventually that becomes worn out when you make another one, or machine it down to 19mm if you want, you know, depends what you're doing. There you go. Right, I'm really fucking pleased with these, how they've turned out. We might do them. They're smaller, they're a smaller roll, aren't they? 15, it'd be 16 because of the hole saw size. Well, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to do one, and Josh is going to do one. He's put the hole saw through here, 20mm hole saw through these big plates, just because there's a fucking lot of plate there, you know. But like I say, I'm really pleased. They've turned out fucking peachy. That is a lovely joint effort. I will hole saw one, and Josh will hole saw another, and then we can look at making. We've got to make 2 spacers, like I said earlier, and then we can make 8 threaded fucking modules that weld on that upright. So we've both had a go on the hole saw. Josh's first time, and he did really well. We'll go from both sides so it don't break out and make a nasty burr, but it still leaves it an hole sawed hole, doesn't it? So I'm just going to give it a quick clean up with this, which is going to be fucking loud, so watch yourself. There you go. That should do it. Right, with them done, 2 are still on the bench up there because we need to make spacers for the tops, don't we? So they're going to go like that and like that, but we're going to put spacers between the plate and the engine there so that they're not fucking pigs in space hanging right out. So they're more of a match to the bottom ones, which we have got in place, and we just square off this box. Just put a square up the back edge of it, look, and it's square. That's your fucking lot. And then we have a measure in the gap and make a threaded bit that fits down there and bolts up there. It's nice and simple. Righto, some variations may occur. So this is, I've had a really good fucking think. What we're going to do is take they're all different. These gaps, the gap here is smaller than that. It is on mine, I've had a look. The gap here is bigger than that. It is on mine, I've had a look. It's all good, but I'm going to standardise the ones on the frame and go for the smallest size, which is 22mm, and then I'm going to make spacers for the engine that takes up the difference, 8mm in this case, and so on and so forth. So the 3 widest gapped spacers are going to, plates are going to have spacers in to bring them within 22mm of this upright, yeah, the centre post, and then we're going to have 2 threaded bits on each one, 22mm long, that'll weld on here, and that'll be fucking sorted. I'm going to make the spacers next, and our Josh is cutting the bits of steel that I will machine up and thread on the lathe to take the bolts that weld on there, like. I know. So I have made the spacers off camera. I'm going to make these threaded bosses. I'm not going to sit and watch, sorry, make you sit and watch me do 8 of them, but you can sit and watch me do 1, can't you? So we're just facing this up. And then we're going to break the edge. You don't need a chamfer. And then we're going to flip it around. And we're going to face it up again, and then we're going to measure it, and then we're going to machine it down to 22mm long. So I'm not going to make you watch that. I'm just explaining what I'm going to do. So there's the second face. I know that they're about 1 mil long, so I'm not too worried about taking a slightly generous skim on the second go. We'll break the edge even though we're going to machine it down, because once I've measured it, I don't want to have to worry about which end goes in and which end sticks out, do I? So I'll give that a measure off camera and then face it up to 22mm long. Okay, with all 8 of those faced to length, we can now centre drill like fucking so. Get them started. Super duper, no need to go mad. Then drill them out to take a M10 thread, so 8.7 I believe. I always get mixed up. 6.8, 8.7, 8.5, it ain't 8.5. Anyway, get this drilled through. Switch out to the countersink deburring tool, just repeating myself because I'm talking to Josh and forgetting to press record, and give that a bit of a lead to take the tap, only a bit, don't need too much, just like that, and in with a machine tap. So leave the tailstock nice and loose so it can slide and not foul things up. Just press it home and that'll take it off you. If it spins, lean on it a bit more because the old Morse taper's not fucking great. All the way until you hear it stop cutting when the note changes, and then back it out. Then the job's a fish. Quick blow off to blow the shit out. Hold on. Get that top out. Put the lathe back in fast and forward. Spin her up. Blow her out. Fucking free the fucking airline off. Blow the shit out the hole. And that's one done. 7 to go, so we'll just run the sander across there to deburr it, or we could use the deburring tool, don't really matter. They might end up getting a bit shaped to fit the upright on the frame, and the engine plates bolt to them. So that's one down, 7 to go. Righto, with our Josh doing, I've done 2, well I've done 1, set Josh up doing the rest, bless him. Scared to death he's going to fucking butcher himself. What's the word? Maim was the word I was looking for. Anyway, with 2 done and the rest being done, I can fit these bad boys. So we're square off there. We've got them bolted in there, look. And we'll put a bit of fucking anti-smegma spray on, like fucking so, and then we'll get some tacks on where we can. Happy days. So we've got that one on. And we've got the 2 for this side. What's easier, if you do the bottom one first, you can kind of reach in to get a better tack. It's a bit tight in there. And also what's really important is, as well as putting the square up, to make sure the back is square, just make sure that that gap's the same. Which that one is maybe a hair higher up. So just tack it down, tap it down. Yeah, because nothing looks worse than these being like fucking broken teeth all over the fucking place, like so. Oh, knock the spacer off. I'll need that in a minute. So with that in place, I will get a tack on this one and then put the top one in. So, my new eye. And then reach in there if I can. I can't really. Oh well, get in there. Happy days. Right, do we have a new pope in? Look, we're smoking at chimney. that is all 8 of those in place, and both brackets, sorry, all 4 brackets, dickhead, in place. So really, structurally, that cradle in the front half of the frame is complete. And to be fair, I couldn't be any happier with it. I think that's fucking lovely. That is absolutely how I like them. I'm well pleased with these. I think them plates, like I said earlier in the video, which was yesterday for us, they turned out fucking lovely. And with our Josh being on the lathe, I've been able to get this tacked up while he was making these. So it's been fucking super helpful. So I'm going to call it a wrap at this stage in this video. So that is the front half of the frames done. That just not diminishing the fact that we've got to do the back, and we've got to alter these. My brainwave didn't fucking work. I might go for the dog leg. Might. In my experience, they're a right cunt to get right, and I don't want to be wasting time and tube. Or I might go for the loop. We'll see. You'll have to follow along to see how we decide to do it. So there you go. That is part 3, and the front half of the frame finished. Well, you know, made up like, we've got to weld it and sort it and all that, but there you go. It just leaves me as always to say thanks for watching. If you like what you see, please give me a thumbs up, consider subscribing or joining as a member. I've got to say that we're on 17,500 followers at the minute, which is just fucking unbelievable. Drop me a comment to say where you are in the world. It would be really interesting to see where everybody tunes in from, yeah? That would be fucking epic. So, as always, big love everyone, and I will catch you on the next one.